everyone, welcome back. This is going to be how to make animated emote number 2. So I was thinking I should make a running character just because I thought it would be a bit funny. The same as the last video, I'm using a new file on animation format, around 2000 pixels, just because I personally am comfortable on that size. So if you want, you can make it maybe smaller or larger, however you want. It's an emote, so I want for the square format, and here I'm just testing out some sketches for the pose. You can make it very cartoony or more expressional or maybe more realistical. This part is just for exploring and just enjoying the process and having fun. No one will see the sketch except for you guys. so it's okay if it's just a bit messier. It doesn't need to be very clean and sharp and precise. So for this type of animation, it's gonna be similar with the previous one, but I'm going to separate all the I guess body parts or members into different animation folder, and I will pretty much just move them around to make the animation. I think you can do this via keyframe as well, but for some reason I went the long route and just made frame by frame animation. So maybe I'll do another video on that as well. So here I'm testing out the movement and just selecting every layer and moving it around. The best part at ClipStudioPaint is that you can actually work, if all the layers are selected, you can actually edit all of them all at once. So that's pretty neat and good to remember. I think I also have the onion skin on. So with the onion skin activated, you can see the previous frame and the last frame. So this is always helpful when you do this type of animation. Again, it's a sketch, so it's just about the movement. And I think it looks very funny in this format. I actually do like the sketch versions a lot more. Final versions are okay as well, it's just the raw versions. I find it so fun to watch. So I'm currently just focusing on the hands and legs, and a bit later I'll also move the head just a bit. And it's okay to spend more time on this part, because if you make this part to work, the rendering and detailing, it will be a lot more easier once you have a good base. Now you don't need to make animations for each and every frame. So I have 12 frames in total and I only use 6 images. So around 1 image per frame. And for me, for this animation, I think it works fine. But you can play around and see if you want to add more or maybe less. Since it's an emote, so it should be smaller. Maybe you can get away with fewer frames. Okay, so here I'm separating the left arm and the right arm, the left leg, the right leg, the body and the head. And at this point I'm actually doing a more detailed sketch, or a more crisp one, just because I'm not sure if the movement is going to work. So I'm just trying it again. This is also experiment for me. So as always, we learn along the way, and that's the fun of it, Sometimes you just need to get out of your comfort zone and try new things, and it's okay if you fail. Just try it again, it's gonna be fine. Here I decided to change the face expression. I thought it will look more dramatic, I guess. Okay, so since I already made the base sketch, I'm just gonna follow along with what I previously did. So I'm basically just duplicating whatever I have done up until now with the lines, and just use the lasso tool and just move around the parts. So I don't think it's it's very interesting to talk about it, but I think it's fun to watch. That's why I actually wanted to record it full. So you can see sometimes you have to do many tries to get it right. And that's okay, we're learning. And hopefully, you're having fun. I mean, I'm having fun, so I hope you're also enjoying the drawing process. Now this might be a bit confusing since there are lines everywhere, But I feel like if you're working on something like this, you can actually get a good grasp of each and every line just because you're actually working on them. So because the video is just a bit sped up, it might be a bit daunting to follow. But if you're working on something like this and actually want to make this kind of animation, I think you're going to have an easier time. I think it just looks a bit confusing, but it's not. Just follow the sketch you previously done and just go around between layers and the onion skin and follow the movement, and that's it actually. Again, I'm on layer number 5, so I'm almost done with everything. And if you're unsure, you can always just go back and forth between layers. I actually do that, jumping from the left leg to the right arm and so on. Animation it's not an easy task, but it's sure very rewarding to look at, like after all the hard work, you know. And just look at it, it's so funny. And here I'm just testing out the movement. I also flipped the canvas horizontally just to make sure everything's okay. And now I'm just playing with the head movement. Again, I tried many frames. I also tried few frames, and I just kind of decided I like this type of movement. I also made the arms a bit smaller because I felt like they were too long. And once I'm happy with it, I'm just, I guess, placing it better on the screen, in the frame, on the canvas, okay. And here I'm making a tiny ghost because, again, I thought it would be funny to make some kind of emote of a character running away from its problems. Now for the ghost, just 2 frames were more than enough. I didn't want it to attract much attention, so I wanted to focus on the running character. I think the ghost is just moving up and down, so that's all. I also tried a few different placements, but I decided I like it near the top of the canvas. Okay, so once I'm happy with everything, I am actually going to duplicate all the layers and place them beneath in a folder. And I'll also lower the opacity on this one. So basically all the hard work I did up until now, I'm just going to use it as a reference and just make it transparent. I'm in lower opacity and just do the line art. Now since I already arranged everything the way I need it, I actually am just going to do the line art and the color on the same layer. So basically I start off with a shape and then I just fill it with color and make a bit of a shadow, and that's all. I think cell shading works best for this type of animation. However, if you want to spend maybe more time on it or more details, you can definitely do that. Because we're not drawing all the way, all the elements, we are actually editing. Frame 1, copying to frame 2, copying to frame 3. So I think this is a way to speed up your process. I actually did draw the first leg and the second leg, and then I just realized I can just copy paste everything and just change the angle, so I actually just did that for the left leg and for the right leg. So it was a bit less work on my part, I would say. But if the drawing is very detailed, maybe that will be a lot more to work around it. So just keep that in mind if you want to do this type of animation. Just have a vague timeline of how much it might take you. This animation with the recording and everything, it took around 3 hours as well. But I think I spent maybe 1 hour or 1.5 hours just on the sketch, just because I wanted to make it work better. I feel like the rest, the coloring and the rest of the movement was easy. Okay, so I moved on to the left leg. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm copying and pasting whatever legs I already drawn and just edit them in place according to the previous sketch. And also once I'm done with one part of the body, I would actually just hide the layer completely so I don't have too many lines that are too distracting. And just, I guess, continue to redraw the shape, the line art and the shadow. I feel like this in this whole process the skirt was a bit more difficult to draw because the rest of the elements were similar in shape and size and I guess patterns. Okay, so just to make it a bit more interesting, so we can differentiate between the left leg and the right leg, I made the leg underneath, the one that's further away from the camera, just a bit toned down in color. So it might not look like a big difference, but I think it helps with the spatial illusion, I guess. So here I'm just testing out the movement and I noticed maybe some small problems and I'm trying to fix them. I just want the legs to form some kind of round circle. So I'm just rearranging them in that way. Now it doesn't need to be a perfect circle, just an idea of a circle. Okay, and when I'm done and I'm moving on to the dress, I'm actually making everything on low opacity so that it won't be too distracting. And for the body, I want the upper body to be in the same place and just for the dress to move. So after I'm done with the first frame and color it, I would just copy and paste the frame that I've already worked on and just edit the dress. So here I actually forgot to color the first frame, and after I realized that, I actually went again and just delete what I've done and color it and copy the layer again. Again, small mistakes like this are no problem, especially since how do I say it? You grow to learn to notice them, I guess. So in time it's gonna get better, so don't worry about it. Sometimes you draw on the wrong layer, so just be aware to look at all the things around you and predict maybe what's wrong or what's not wrong, or what might be a problem or what might need editing. So here I'm playing around with shadows. I tried a few variations, but I think just the front shadow works best in this case. Well, actually I keep saying shadows, but actually I just drew the highlight. Well, but I think you get the picture, so I hope that wasn't too confusing. Okay, moving on, I duplicated the layer, made it on second frame. Rename the frames if you need to. The frames in the timeline need to have the same name or number as the frames in the layer section on the right side of the screen. Otherwise you will have empty frames, keyframes. But that's an easy fix. You just need to right click on the number in the timeline and just assign a layer, so just choose from the list. If you don't do that, you're just gonna have an empty layer space, so just know it's easy to fix and you don't need to worry too much about it. And for keyframe layer number 3, I actually just use the lasso tool to just select part of the dress, just move it around and just draw over it. It might look like a lot of work, but it really wasn't. The other thing you can do is just do the line art on different layer and the color on different animation layer / folder. But I think it was no need, especially in this case. So I guess you'll just have to adjust to the character and the complexity it has. And also for this type of animation, I would strongly suggest to how do you call it? To simplify the details. Just because we're putting accent on the movement, so most of the time, even if you have too many details, they might not be noticeable. So it's all about a broad shape and an easy to read shape, I would say. Okay, this is number 5, so just one more and we're done with the dress. I think this took around half an hour to draw all of them. So again, just testing around, copying and pasting, and just use the lasso tool to edit the shape. So that's about it. And we're almost done. Again, it's going to be an emote, so it's going to be tinier. But that's the good part. If you're working on a larger file like this one, you can actually use this one as a I don't know, a loading screen if you want to, because even if you scale it down, it's going to look crisp and nice and detailed, and even if you left it at this size, it will still look good as a full animation. I intentionally made the lines thicker because I want it to look good if it's smaller, but if you maybe want to use it as a full animation, maybe you would like to do a thinner line art. Just saying. I guess this comes to preferences again. So for the hand, I just drew one hand, copy and pasted, and just selected, changed the pivot point or the axle, I think it's called, and just move it around. It's a simple animation. And once I'm done with it, I actually go around to hand right, and just draw it again. Move around the parts if you don't want to be bothered to hide all the other layers, and just repeat the steps, and just copy and paste the colors that are similar to the correspondent leg. So colors from the leg right similar to colors from the right hand. And I keep saying left and right, but it's actually the characters left and the characters right. In case that's a bit confusing, I mean, it still is for me. So for the last part, I'm just I guess changing the face expression again. And just do the line art and the colors on the same layer. Again, if you're comfortable, you can just work on separate layers, but no, sometimes it's not needed, and I felt like this is one of the cases. However, if you wanna make more animations on the face, maybe you can go the other route. But if you're just testing out or just wanting to learn the process or anything like that, just I guess just spend time on what's important. Okay, so I'm doing the eyes, and as previously, I'm just gonna go to the bucket and just fill in the colors. And along the way, I realized I actually made the eyes, and since it's on the same layer, it will be hard to reach all the small dots, so I can cover it. So I just drew them again on a white base, so this way I know it won't have any transparency. Okay, so I'm just adding the smaller details and just color picking from my previous avatar that I've made. Again, you can detail it more if you want to. I just feel like cell shading works best here in this animation. Okay, so the last step, just duplicate the layer and just move it around a bit, and that's all. Delete parts if they don't look good or they cover things they shouldn't. So here I'm just testing out to make the tears bigger. That's actually what I wanted, but it's barely noticeable, so I decided to not use those. So just Ctrl undo everything, and you're fine. again, it's a learning process and testing, so it's a fun is fun the right word. It's very rewarding to see the end of what you are doing up until now. So for the tiny ghost, I didn't spend too much time on it. I actually wanted to make a spider, but I'm too scared of spiders, so a ghost seemed easier to do and more fitting since it's almost October. So Halloween is close by. I made the canvas layer invisible just so I can see the transparent parts and what's not transparent. Okay, so for the last part, I'm selecting everything and add them to a folder. And up in the corner, you can press the button called Enable Keyframes on this layer. Well, it's actually a folder, but you can do that. And right click, add a keyframe wherever you want to, usually at the beginning and at the end. And since the character was just doing a big loop run, I decided to move the blue delimitation to 24 frames. And you can press the folder, I mean not the folder, but until you see the small hand. Right click and just copy paste it. You're basically copying and pasting the whole animation. So in the end we have 24 frames of animation that's moving around on the screen. Now the problem is you can't export the GIF animation and have it on transparent layer. You can maybe export transparent sticker, but in my experience it didn't work quite well. So the safest bet is to just export PNGs and just move them around in another program. So in my case, I found Photoshop to be the easiest to work with into making this type of GIFs. So I just opened Photoshop and just copying and pasting every frame that I already did in Clip Studio. Just look for a timeliner and just choose create frame animations. Rasterize all the layers and then just click make frames from layers. And there you have it. We actually have a fast GIF animation. There are a few settings you can work with. The most interesting is the dots there. However, if you click on them and add extra frames, they will actually be with transparency. So we don't really need that right now. So I'm just undoing it. And to export a transparent GIF, you go to export and save for web. I don't know why that is the option, but that is the option. So remember to change it to GIF or GIF or whatever the name. And you can play around with noise, diffusion and other small effects that can help make a better quality. You can also change the image size. So you want to export a small icon or a large file, you can just do it in that option. At the end, we see they have a weird white outline, and I just kept it in the video just to show you how to solve that problem. So just choose another color from up there, and this should actually solve the weird white outline there. So that's all for this video. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.